Hi guys, welcome to my channel. My name is Lisa, also known as Fiber Nymph, and today is Saturday, July 19th. And we're on my front porch. Lighting, not awesome, but honestly probably no worse than it would be if we were in my office today. And I chose outside because it's really kind of nice out today. Low level humidity, but there's a nice little breeze. You may be able to hear our wind chimes over on the other side of the porch. Downside to the front porch, if you've been here with me before, road noise. But there's also birds, and birds are awesome fun to listen to. Yeah, and then here we have our wood pile, one of many wood piles here, firewood piles on our property. And I kind of forgot that this one has this blue tarp on the back end of it. Most of our tarps are kind of this silver gray, and so they don't look, you know. And then I'm setting up out here. I'm like, oh shoot. And there is no good way for me to not have that blue tarp in this shot. It keeps our firewood dry so it doesn't rot, and we can actually burn it and have it make heat. So I also have a Tippy here with me. She is no doubt gonna ram into the tripod at any moment, and I'll have to apologize for that too. So that's where we're at today. How are you? I hope you're having a lovely summer weekend. It's so hard to believe that we're in the second half of July, which is technically kind of the second half of summer if you consider June, July, August, summer like I do, because my brain still goes based on like when kids are off school, even though I haven't had kids in school for years and years and years. Yeah, anyway, I hope you're having a really good weekend. You might be thinking, Lisa, so soon you're here? It's only been 9 days since you recorded last. You're right. I'm not going to have another inadvertent month-long gap between episodes. It's just working out well that way. So we've got 2 July episodes, as I like to do, at least 2 a month. As always, there will be show notes in the description box below this video here on YouTube. There will be links to all of my project pages, both on Ravelry as well as on my project blog, which is called My Favorite Day. So you can find links to all of that stuff below. What else? There's a Fiber Nymph Dye Works group in Ravelry. There's the blog. I have a YouTube membership here on this channel if you are interested in getting a little extra content every month. I do a members video once a month that's just for my members, and I have started putting up members only posts about once a week. So that includes some pictures and a short little essay, reflection, whatever you'd like to call it. And those posts will show up. They should show up in your feed. I would be very interested to know, members out there, if you are seeing those. I don't have a way of knowing how. I have not found any analytics for that, but they're there. I have some other ideas for this kind of membershipy stuff on a different platform that might be more accessible to more people. I'm not sure. I'm still thinking about that, but for now, if you would like to join and be a member of the channel, you will get that extra content of those posts every week and 1 monthly bonus video. So there's that. Thank you so much for your kind thoughts and wishes for my son. He is doing okay. He's been home from the hospital now for a couple of weeks. He still isn't back to work yet. He has not been cleared for that. We're hoping next week he'll be able to get back because, number one, he is not getting paid because he's out of paid time off. Number two, he is going a little bonkers just being at home all the time. Like he is bored. Like he's more of a social person than I am. He doesn't always come off as social, but he is, and I know he gets a little crazy. And I think work is such a huge part of his social life, being around people, that not having that in his life is really starting to he's paying the price for that. Anyway, he's doing okay so far. Thank you so much for all those kind thoughts and wishes for him. I'm also kind of doing okay. My hip and my ankle are still, so far, hanging in there, feeling like we're doing pretty well, so hopefully that continues. Last time I recorded, my mom was here. She was here for a week. She's back home now. that week that she's here in the summer, or even at the holidays when they're up here. It always goes way too fast, but it was lovely having her up here, and I feel like it was a very active visit. A lot of times we don't have a lot going on, but we pretty much had something going on nearly every day that she was here. So I feel like that made it feel even shorter because we didn't have a lot of time to just sit around and not do anything. Although we did play games every night. We played cards, like what is it, 5 crowns. They like 5 crowns, and she brought that. We play Quirkle. She and I play bananagrams. We always do that when she's here. Chris had brought up a puzzle he thought we might like to do, but we never had a chance to really get it started, and we didn't have a good place to do it. So maybe we'll do that at Christmas time. We'll see. Anyway, so she's back home. Work-wise, I am very close to being caught up with pre-orders, things like that I talked about last time. If you are waiting for an order for me, unless you just placed it like within the last week, there's a very good likelihood that it'll be getting shipped out by midweek next week. So yay for that. Right now, I just put in a couple of listings for minis. Now, I know for some of you, minis aren't super exciting. Others of you, like me, love minis. And that was the last thing I had left from my show that I had not put in the shop because I wasn't quite sure how I was going to do it. Anytime I do a show, I always take a ton of minis, and I always do like a show special, like 5 for $25 or whatever. And I wanted to be able to replicate that in the shop, but I was not able to find a way to make that kind of a listing possible without it being really cumbersome. And so after sitting on it for a couple of weeks, I decided, you know what, I'm just going to put together sets. And so I called them Lucky Sevens. They have 7 minis in them, and they're actually a better deal than the 5 for $25. They are in the shop. I have 2 different color palettes. There are the Happy Brights, and there's the Dark and Moodies. They're on Bounce and on Strong Decay. So those are the 2 weights available. I also added a whole bunch more Good Things Come in Threes, which are the little mini bundles. Lots and lots of mini options up there for you. If you are in your gnome era, like I feel like I'm going to be after making that one gnome, minis are the way to go. Sarah Shearer just released a new pattern this past week also that is all about gnomes. Not all about gnomes, all about minis. And I don't remember the clever name she gave it, but I will put it down here, and I will try to put a picture of it in here if I can scoop one up somewhere. It's all with minis, and I think one full skein, but in my brain, I'm thinking, I could do that just all with minis. So anyway, you might want to check that out. It looks like a fun shawl. I might do it at some point. So many other things that I want to do too, but anyway, that's what that is all about. You can subscribe to my newsletter if you're not already on my newsletter so that you know what's happening when and get all of the news that is news when it is news. You can do that on any page from any page on my website. I have a little newsletter button. Just subscribe. Yay. What else? I totally missed doing my regular intro stuff. I'm going to record that here and chop it out and put it back where it belonged. So hang on. Okay. I just popped that in there. Hopefully you saw that. I mean, I know you saw that. If you got to this part, you saw that part unless you fast forwarded. Boy, it's going to be one of those days. Okay. On a more serious note, or slightly more somber note, I guess, I just wanted to talk for a few minutes about the lovely human that was Sara Bauer. You might know her as Sarapomegranate from the Yarns at Yin Hoo podcast. She has been a part of our fiber community for many years. Sadly, she passed away June 4th after a 6-year battle with cancer. I didn't find out that she had actually passed away until like a couple weeks afterwards when I was on Instagram, and I went to her page because I hadn't seen anything from her a while and realized that her husband had posted about her passing. I'm so sad because I mean, I'm not going to make it out like I was super close friends with Sarah because I wasn't, but we'd known each other for quite a long time. casual friends. You know, we would see each other at different events, chat. We interacted through our podcasts. Um, she was a delightful person, and I really enjoyed her Yarns at Yin Hoo podcast. Sarah Hunt, who does the Fiber Trek podcast, her last episode, which I will link to in the show notes, at the beginning of her last episode, she did a beautiful memorial tribute to Sarah. They were very, very close friends, along with Emily from Fibertown, who has not done a podcast in a very long time, but the three of them were super close. So Sarah Hunt did a lovely tribute to her friend Sarah. And I just wanted to say, Sarah was one of those people who seemed very real and very down to earth. And I remember when I first came across her podcast, I was hooked right away because her opening was always, you know, welcome to the Yarns at Yin Hoo podcast, a podcast about knitting and other post-apocalyptic skills. And that one got me right there. Like, that's so cool. And she did a lot of interesting segments. She had her Power Pantry segment. She shared poetry a lot. She was, by profession, I believe she was she was an English teacher. I'm not sure if she specialized in literature or not. I don't remember. But that was a big part of her life. She taught high school. I know she had a club, like a fiber club, knitting club for her high school students, which I remember sending her a bunch of stuff for them at one point in time. I just thought that was so neat. And she was somebody who was probably one of the first people to get me started thinking about like place-based yarns, you know, wools with a history, with a story to them. Sarah Hunt, very much also. The two of them together. And I know they collaborated on different knit-alongs and things that I took part in. It was a really fun sense of community that Sarah fostered in her making. She was such a huge advocate for local textiles, and she was very much a supporter of the Hudson Valley Textile Project. I'm not sure if that's the correct name. Again, I will correct myself down here. She's just left such a legacy. And after I watched that beginning segment of Sarah's podcast, with that tribute, I paused the video and I went to Ravelry and I went on Sarapomegranate, that's her Ravelry name, to her project pages. And I just wanted to go back through her projects and look at them because there were so many that I remember her working on through her podcast. And then I was looking at some of the most recent ones she had finished, and she was finishing up really old whips. And it made me wonder, like, was she trying to do that while she still could? I don't know. That kind of gave me a pang. Anyway, I don't want to be sad as much as I want to be thankful to have known her. Both the times I got to meet her in person and talk with her, to just knowing her through her podcast, through her work, through her Instagram account. She was a sewist. She loved, like, she participated in Me Made Me so many times with sewn garments and things she'd knitted. She was a weaver. She was a spinner. She did all the things, and she dabbled and experimented with so many different crafts, which I always find very inspiring. And it's much like I like to do, maybe not the same ones that she did, but having people like that who you can observe and participate with through watching and listening to is always inspirational to me. So anyway, I just wanted to mention that in case you were aware of her but had not heard of her passing. It's sad, but again, she led such an inspiring life and was just such a down-to-earth person. I'm so thankful for having known her. So Anyway, I'm going to leave that there. And again, I will link those things in the show notes if you want to check out that little video that Sarah Hunt did. I highly recommend that. It was wonderful. Okay. I know it probably won't feel like it to you unless you notice different shadows and lighting. But a significant amount of time has passed since I cut off. My phone rang, and it was my husband. And I knew exactly what was going on before I even answered it, because right before I sat down to record out here, he had left on this one little motorcycle he has. It's an antique, it's an old motorcycle. One he used to have when he was a kid, and then he found it somewhere and he bought another one so he could have it. He has never gone out for a ride on that thing for more than just local, where he's been gone any amount of time and he doesn't call me and say, I need you to come pick me up, because something about it ends up breaking. So when I saw him leave, I'm like, wonder if I'm going to get a phone call. But I didn't want to put that out there in the universe. I'm like, it'll be fine. Everything's good. And then as I was recording, phone rang. I'm like, dang it. And that's what it was. He's like, I need you to come get me. Twice he blew up a hole in the engine. That did not happen today, though. It was something with the points or something, but it wasn't something he could fix on the side of the road. So now he has just left to go get the bike. I went and got him. He left the bike in somebody's yard. They're like, yeah, cool. So now he's hooked up the trailer. I started to record again because he said, I don't need your help. But I didn't realize he was going to be backing the trailer up like literally right in front of where I'm recording. And it was very noisy. I'm like, I can't record right now. So he is now gone. I'm going to pick up where I left off. But I will say enough time has passed that it is now no longer refreshing water in the afternoon time, which is what I had out here originally. It is now gin and tonic time. And even though this does look like it should be a coffee mug, it has this nice hole in the top for a straw, and it keeps things really cold. It is now gin and tonic o'clock on a Saturday afternoon. Late afternoon now, instead of the mid-afternoon it was when I started this whole thing. You know, this is an aside. Sometimes I wonder if I am doing something to inadvertently invite chaos into my world. Like, am I doing something to accidentally manifest chaos? And if that sounds really woo to you and you're not into that, I get it, it's fine. But like, I do believe like the energy that we put out there affects what comes back to us in a lot of ways. You know, mundane ways, other ways, tangible ways, intangible ways. And I'm just really starting to wonder, I maybe need to be more mindful about the energy and the thoughts that I am putting out into the universe. Because holy moly, chaos happens around here an awful lot. And, you know, chaos is kind of a broad term, but you get what I mean. The unexpected, the goofy stuff, things that you'd rather not have to deal with. All right, I left you so long ago. I know it hasn't been that long for you, but so long ago today. I left you after talking about the loss of Sara Bauer. So we are done with that part. Again, I will link those things. They'll be down below. And I will remember Sara. I probably have more things to say about her. I'm still processing this, and it'll be for another time. But yeah. Anyway, let's get started with crafting. How about that? Because I have no idea how much time has already gone into this. But we're going to start with crafts, and I'm going to start with a hat that you actually have not seen, but I did mention on the last episode. It's my July charity hat. I think I had just cast it on that morning, and I did like 2 rounds and then didn't have enough to really bother showing you. But here it is. It's finished now. Here, I was trying to do pictures over here to cover up the blue tarp. Which I feel like has moved. Oh, there it is. Yeah. Anyway, okay. So this is a hat that I made out of leftovers. It's a very plain vanilla kind of hat. 2x1 ribbing, stockinette, regular decreases, all that good stuff. The yarns I used for this, I had leftovers of soft black on my strong DK, The stripy one is my midwinter color, which I already made a hat out of my skein of midwinter, and this was the leftovers, and I still have a little ball left over. So that's in there, and that's also my strong DK. And then when I ran out of the soft black, I used some of a skein of graphite, which I had on Cozy, which is my worsted weight base. Cozy and strong DK, or Cozy and my Bonafide DK, they all work really well together. Would you maybe be able to see a difference in weight if you were doing just a plain stockinette semi-solid colored sweater? Maybe. That would probably be more likely to show the difference in the weights. But for this hat, because I was also alternating every 2 rounds, so I started with the soft black and then alternated 2 rounds soft black, 2 rounds self-striping, 2 rounds soft black, 2 rounds self-striping. When I ran out of the soft black, then I started using the graphite. So it was 2 rounds of everything. It all went together really well. I don't think there's really much that you can see by way of difference of weight of the yarn. I used US 5 needles for the ribbing, US 6 needles for the body of the hat, and there's really nothing much else to tell you about it. It's going to be a charity hat. I'm happy with how it turned out. I love using up leftovers. And you guys know that because I say that a lot. So that is my first finished object. My second item, I'm not sure whether to call it a finished object yet or not. While my mom was here, I played with this. This is, well, I'll show you what it is first. I made a little coaster. That's not what it was originally. A video kept popping up on my YouTube feed by, it was a channel called MSC Makes, which I will link below. Loud truck. And she was showing how to do a mini granny square blanket, and particularly how she does her join as you go. And that's what captured my attention, was the join as you go technique, because look at the pretty detail you get from it. It's like this little twisted stitch. I don't even know how to refer to it. It's like this little twisted, not a braid, just it looks twisted. You know, like you took 2 strands of 2 different color yarns and twisted them. That's what it looks like. And I thought that was so cool. So I wanted to try it. I obviously was not committing to doing a blanket, but I thought, you know, I'll do a few and see what I can come up with. And so I followed her tutorial, both for the little squares as well as the join. And I thought it turned out really cute. I really do like that joining technique. I've never had any luck with join as you go techniques with crochet, or knitting for that matter, although to be honest, I'm not sure I've ever tried them with knitting. Yeah, I usually just end up seaming things, but I really liked how this worked. It's fiddly when you first start doing it until you catch on to what you're doing. It can be kind of fiddly, but the end result was worth it. So I will play with this again. I just did these 4 squares, and then I did a little slip stitch border and made myself or single crochet border and made myself a coaster. So that's finished. But then that same evening, or that same night, I could not sleep. And you know, I have these sleep meditations, so I'll put my earbuds in and do these sleep meditations, and usually inside of 10-15 minutes I'm sound asleep. If I get through the whole hour of the meditation and I'm still wide awake, I just get up, because it's like, I'm not falling asleep right now. And this was one of those nights, but part of it was while I was laying there, not falling asleep to the sleep meditation, I was thinking about this and thinking, what would it be like to do this, but with hexies? So I got up and I started crocheting hexies out of the same yarn. This yarn, by the way, is Bounce, and these were just leftovers from the mini skeins that were with the Summer Gnomes kit that I made my Nelly gnome that I showed you last time. So that's all these are. I don't have a whole lot left at this point. The blue's almost all gone. I do have still probably enough of the yellow and the grayish to do a little more. But anyway, so I started doing this. This is very messy. So you have to work a center one and then start working around the outside. So it kind of worked, but not awesome. It does not lay flat, obviously, like it's a nice little cup. And I know why. I did not do enough stitches in the corners of the hexies. I did the same knit, two double crochets, chain two double crochets in the corners. I think I should have at least chained 3 to let them open up a little bit more. I think that probably would have been what would have helped this lay flatter. That's my hunch. I haven't tried it out. But it's fine. I was just playing. I don't care that it didn't work out. However, later on, then I'm looking at this thinking, well, you know what though? If I just did one more square or one more hexie, I could probably join it to all the sides up at the top and have a ball. And then I started trying to do that. So I did do another hexie, and then I started trying to join it up here at the top. And I realized, oh, no, that's not going to work. I need to join these sides first, right? And so I ripped that little hexie out and started that. And then I'm like, oh, no, well, then I end up with this whole extra point. That's not going to work. So what I realized was if I wanted to do this and have this actually end up being a ball, is I have to make a whole other one of these. So that's a whole 7 more of these. Then I could join them around the outside, like basically have one of these, rotate it half a hexie, and it would fit in there. I could do that. Am I going to do that? I could. I think I maybe probably have enough yarn that I could do that without introducing a third color. Will I? I don't know. That's why I'm saying this might be a finished object. It might not. We're just gonna let that simmer in the background of my brain for now. But it was a fun exercise, and I'm really glad to have become familiarized with that join as you go technique. I really do like it, and I can see myself using that in the future with other crochet projects. So that's a win. It's always a win when you learn something new and you like the outcome. Okay, so as I told you last time, I was having trouble feeling excited about many projects. Like, nothing I already had on the needles was really exciting me, didn't really feel like working on it. After I finished the hat and I finished the whatever that was, the coaster and the little weird hexie thing, I needed something to work on, and I just wanted something that was going to bring me a little bit of comfort and happiness and joy. And for me right now, crochet really fills that void. I really love the rhythmic nature of crochet. But as you also know, I seem to be in this rut where I am just making the exact same crochet project constantly, and it's that fair weather cowl. I have made so many of them, but I really, really like it. And I do want to use that pattern, that stitch pattern, for something else at some point. I could probably do a whole blanket with it. But I went in my stash and I thought I just want to crochet, and I wanted to do another experiment. I wanted to try crocheting that pattern using 2 strands of fingering weight held together. I did do a DK weight version of that cowl back in the spring. I don't think I've shown that to you yet because it's related to something else that will be going into the shop. Again, that was one of the things I thought would be, going in this summer, and it's not. It's probably going to come this fall. So you'll see that cowl then. I liked doing it with the DK. It's just much bulkier. Like the sport weight one is more my preference. But it was fun to play with. And I decided I wanted to try it with 2 fingering weight strands held double, because that's kind of a DK. Can be a little heavier than a DK, but anyway, this is what I ended up with. Obviously it's not a cowl, because it could probably be a very, very tight cowl, but I wasn't going to do that. No, I'm calling this a mat. It's a wonky mat, but the colors are interesting, huh? So I had in my stash 10 10-gram micro skeins that I had dyed. It was sort of a dye experiment. I was trying to play with some micro striping, a certain micro striping technique. And so I dyed 10 different minis, micros, the 10-gram ones I call micros. I did not like the outcome. It wasn't what I had really been envisioning, and so I never did anything with them, and they just ended up tossed in my stash. So that's what I pulled out, was those 10 minis, and I decided to just hold them together. It started here. I held 2 together and just kept changing them as they would run out. And because they were the same weight, they were all 10 grams, they kind of were running out together. If I had thought it through, I probably would have only used like half of one of the first ones so that there would be some overlap. I didn't do that though. Although you can see right around here, one of them did run out before the other. That's why we've got overlap between these two, but that's kind of odd, and I'm not sure why that happened, but it did. Anyway, so what's really interesting about this is the micro striping really kind of showed up in here as sort of a micro patterning because of how the colors fell. So that was interesting and also pretty unexpected. I did not expect to see that happen, because what were the chances that things were going to be lined up in such a way that that would be the outcome, right? I didn't. Now it does kind of get lost. Well, you can still kind of see it up here too. But for both of them to be the same, because I did not make an effort to start at the same end, although I guess considering how I had prepped that yarn, maybe that would just have been the default. I don't know. It's interesting. But this is what I ended up with, and it was very relaxing to do. I think I did it like within a day or two. But I love it. And again, I really love this stitch. So this is based on the Fairweather Cow by Jennifer Dickerson, who you probably know off by heart now. She is Fiberflex. And I did it over, I chained 40 stitches on rather than the 49 I used for sport weight. And I used an H hook. I think I usually use an F hook or a G hook for sport weight. I can't remember. But anyway, it will eventually find a place and be a mat, and that's fine. A plant mat or some other sort of mat, whatever. But that was something that brought me joy for a couple of days. Then when I finished that, again, I was sort of at a place of being in a lull because I didn't have anything specific I really wanted to work on. Then one evening, my daughter Snapchatted me with a video saying, "Hey Mom," and she was filming her one friend who's her roommate now, saying, "They really like this one hat you made for me. Could you make another one for them?" And I looked at it and I could see what it was. I'm like, absolutely, I would love to make them a hat. And so I said, I don't have any more of that yarn, but I'm fairly certain I can recreate that. It was a very simple hat. It was a very simple hat, wide brim that you could double, fold up, but it was ribbed, and then the rest of it was stockinette. It was slouchy, and I knew exactly what yarn I had used. I had used Rios. I don't remember the color, maybe Candombe, I think was the colorway. So I said, yes, I can absolutely make that hat again. I'll look on my Ravelry project page. I'm sure maybe I took some sort of notes to tell me my stitch count or whatever. I said, if I didn't, I might need that hat back so I can count, because that's what she said. She goes, it needs to be like the same fit and everything. I'm like, okay, I'll figure it out. And so after we got off Snapchat, I got on there on Ravelry, and I was looking, going back and back and back. I'm like, gosh, how old was this hat? 2015 I made that hat. I totally forgot that I even gave it to Emma, but apparently she really likes it, which is why she's not just giving it to her friend. I never took a finished picture of it for my Ravelry project page, which is also sort of funny, but former me, past me, took excellent notes in 2015 on how I made that hat, and that's all I needed. So I messaged her friend and I said, hey, tomorrow I'm going to go in my stash because I know I've got a whole bunch more of that yarn in a bunch of different colors. I'm going to send you a video and show you what they are. You tell me what one you want and I will make you a hat. And so they responded the next day. They're like, oh my God, like I did that the next day. And they're like, oh my gosh, you do not have to make me a hat. That's okay. It's fine. I don't really need a hat. But if you actually feel inclined to make one, I like this one, and either of those two pinks would be great. I'm like, I'm absolutely making this person a hat. I love this human. So I chose their second choice only because I think it's a really good color for them. I mean, any of them would have worked well, but I chose this one. Look how far I am already. This is the Piedras color, I think. Do I have the little tag in here? I'm not sure if I do or not. Maybe not. Piedras, we'll call it Piedras. Anyway, isn't it pretty? This lighting is not giving it its fair due, but it's a really pretty, and I think it'll be a really nice autumn color, but it's less of a, like this is less of a rusty color and more of a reddish purple, like a maroon, like a mid-maroon. It's so gorgeous, and I do think this would look gorgeous on them because they color their hair half fuchsia, like half bright magenta, not fuchsia, magenta and orange. And I think this will go really well, really well. So anyway, obviously I have not wasted any time. I just started this yesterday. I've got the ribbing done. There's 5 inches of 2x2 ribbing, and there will be 7 inches of stockinette. I did the ribbing on 5s, the body is on 7s. And once I get to 7 inches, then I will start doing the decreases. And this will be done in no time. And they'll be here this weekend. So hopefully I can give it to them then. I'm very excited to have a project with a purpose that will make somebody so happy. And I figure if they don't love this particular hat or this colorway as much, I may just make the other colorway that they first said and make that one too. And then there'll be an extra hat that either they could use or Emma could use or their third roommate could use. I don't really know that person's color preferences super well yet. I'm getting to know them though because I want to make them things. Okay, so the hat. The hat doesn't really have a name. I'm just calling it Heaven's Hat. That is, their name is Heaven. So Heaven's Hat is that project. However, last time I talked to you, I also told you I had some projects coming up that I wanted to do, including a pair of socks that were going to be a gift. And at this point, Heaven, if you are watching this, although I cannot imagine why you would be, you might want to just jump ahead to the next section or you won't be surprised. So the socks are for this lovely human named Heaven. Their birthday is actually in September, very close to my birthday, which I think is special too. But I was planning to make them a pair of socks. I was going to dye a set of inversibles for them in colors that I knew they would like. And then as I was in my yarn stash looking for those skeins of Rios, I realized, oh my gosh, I have this skein of Kawaii Pie, the rest of the skein, because I had knit a sample for the colorway like I always do, but I hadn't done anything with the rest of the skein. And I think I had thought, I'll probably make Emma a pair of socks, but I just did a pair of socks for Emma, which she'll be getting for her birthday next month. But I thought, oh, these are excellent colors for Heaven. So I sent Emma a picture. I'm like, these would work really well for them, right? She said, absolutely. So I started a sock. Obviously, this is not at the beginning of the pie sequence because I used the beginning of the pie sequence for the sample, but we're getting in there. I just think it's funny because the first several stripes were really wide stripes. We're getting into some smaller ones now though. So yeah, this is just going to be my plain vanilla 2x1 rib sock with a slip stitch heel flap and gusset. I'm not going to use contrasting colors for either the heel flap or the toes on this one just because it is a pie colorway and pie colorways are super forgiving. I don't think I really ever do yarn management, like color management for pie socks. I don't feel like it's necessary, especially this one. This one has 7 colors to begin with. So this is in progress. I'm not as rushed with this one just because, again, birthday isn't until towards the end of September, so it'll be done in time. So that's exciting, because even though I'm not excited to work on my legacy socks, still haven't touched them, I now have a pair of socks that I am excited to be working on because they are for somebody else who I think will really enjoy them. Okay, so that is everything that is currently on the needles. However, I had another project that I thought would be on the needles by now. I just haven't actually had a chance to cast it on. When I was in between projects and I was in my stash room, I basically just went in one day looking for inspiration by looking at yarn, because a lot of times that'll do it, right? And so I went into my bin where I had works in progress, my languishing works in progress, plus I knew I had some project bags of yarn just pulled out with the intention of those being upcoming projects. And one of the things that was in that bin was this yarn. Not a project bag, obviously, plastic bag, but it has 3 different colorways. Now these I did use. This is, okay, the history of this yarn. I purchased this, I believe it was Virtual Maryland, at the very beginning of the pandemic, because remember, everything went virtual, everything got canceled, then everything started going virtual, and Maryland went virtual really fast. I remember that was like, we don't know what we're doing, but we're gonna make this happen. So this is some CC's wool, their Yarn Baby fingering weight. Now the Yarn Babies are really big, like over 1,000 yard skeins. That's not what these were. These were like half that size, but they were labeled as Yarn Babies. So I don't know. It's a light fingering weight, and I purchased it, I believe I had in mind to do a top. I did not do the top, obviously. And then this yarn just sort of sat. I had divided it up into half skeins, like everything was split in half to do the top, but I didn't do that. And then I did end up using it last year, I believe, to weave a scarf, which is actually in my shop right now. If you like it, it's there. But I used a lot of this yarn for that, and I used the majority of this really light color for that. So that's all that I have left of that. But then I have these 2 darker colors, which are really very similar. This one's a little more purple than this one, but they're pretty similar. Okay, so I pulled that yarn out. I'm like, I really would like to use as much of this yarn as I could. And I started thinking, what would make me happy to make with it? Because again, I really need something that's going to get me excited and that I'm going to like. And so I went into my Ravelry library to see what projects, what patterns I already owned. And I put in chevron, or like, you know how you can search Ravelry via characteristics and things, design elements. I chose chevrons because you know me, I love chevrons. And so 2 patterns in particular came up. Maybe there were only 2, but 2 stuck out to me. One was a shawl, and I like it. And I've owned that pattern for years and years. I've never made it. I will make it eventually, but I didn't think this was quite the right yarn for it. It would be a great pattern. I can't remember the name of it off the top of my head, but it would be really great for like a single skein of really loud, crazy variegated yarn. So I think that's what I'm going to probably do with that. Anyway, the other pattern that came up was for a cowl, and it's called Plume, and that's what it looks like. And this is a pattern by Marianne Lammers. Now, this is from a collection called Stash something. Stash Busters, maybe? I'm going to say that's what it's called. And I did make one other cowl from this collection before, and that was Sable. I did that out of some hand spun some years ago. I believe I won this collection. I won a prize from Carol of the A Stitch in Time podcast in one of her make-alongs, and I'm pretty sure this was one of the prizes I chose, was this collection, because she was offering like patterns up to a certain amount, and this fit that. I think that's where I got this. I'm pretty sure. Carol, if you didn't give it to me, I'm giving you credit anyway. So anyway, I had done Sable, but I hadn't done the other 3. And so this one was in there, and I love how that looks. I would love to do it someday with like really contrasting colors. That would be fun, but I am going to do it with this. Now, the interesting thing I found out when I was on the project page for this, because it took me a minute to be able to get to my actual download of this pattern, is that Marianne Lammers, who has 110 patterns on Ravelry, posted earlier this year that she was retiring at the end of February of this year, and all of her patterns are going away. All 110 of her patterns. Now they are still on Ravelry, like in the, like you can still find them. So if you own them, you could obviously link to them. You cannot purchase her patterns anymore. I'm so sad about that because she has amazing patterns up there. And part of me started thinking, like, I'm unsure why. Like, I don't have any idea if Marianne was a full-time designer or if she had another thing and designing was her side gig. But like in my brain, I would think if I had 110 patterns out there, that would be excellent as residual income for retirement. You know, like I just can't understand why someone would take all their patterns. I'm sure she had her reasons and I'm certainly not judging her for it, but I just sort of made me wonder and just be a little bit sad that those patterns are now no longer available to anybody because they're beautiful. So I'm going to be talking about this pattern that if you own it already, you can make it, but if you don't, you can't, and I am so sorry about that. But I will be casting that on soon with this beautiful yarn that I've had since 2020, and hopefully by the time I record next time, I'll have something to show you for it. We're gonna jump from there into the Choose Your Own Adventure Make-Along, which is still going on. We are now in the third quarter. Please join in. It's never too late to join in. Again, I will link all the information so you can find that if you would like to. I did announce the second quarter winners in my last video. I heard from 2 of 3 of them. The third one I haven't heard from yet, but as soon as I do, I'll get their prize out. The other 2 prizes are already on their way. I did finally revisit my goal list to see what I had planned for this year. I realized I hadn't done it since March, or no, I'm sorry, May. My original plan was to revisit that list every month and update it. I think I've done it twice since the beginning of the year. Loud motorcycles. Anyway, yeah, I hadn't done it since early May. So I went back through, and honestly, I purposely left my goals for my Choose My Own Adventure pretty loose, very general. And overall, I feel like I've done a good job. I'm still working with stash. I'm still trying to work with hand spun. I haven't done as much hand spun lately, but I'll get back to it. I've done it earlier this year. Yeah, I'm not going to list all of them. There are designing, I haven't done as much as I want to, and I haven't practically like written stuff down. Lots of designs in my head. And then there was one other thing. Oh, the additional crafts that I really wanted to make a priority. Cross-stitching, weaving, and spinning. Obviously, those have not taken priority or been given priority status recently. But I did go ahead and I added painting / drawing and writing because those are things that obviously the painting, I haven't gotten back to it quite as much. As a matter of fact, I had to put everything away before my mom came because I just didn't want it all sitting out, and I haven't gotten it back out yet. But that I have been enjoying and I want to get back to it. I was just telling Bill that this morning. We were watching a virtual tour of the Van Gogh Museum in Amsterdam this morning online. It was through the Washington D.C. something history. I will put the link for that in the show notes. We watch them occasionally, but my husband loves Van Gogh. I like Van Gogh. He really, really loves Van Gogh. So anyway, we were watching that and I made the comment to him because they were talking about how, Van Gogh, used his art as kind of almost as a form of therapy because he suffered with a lot of mental issues as well and that points to his life. And I said, yeah, you know what? I really need to get back to my painting. It does make me feel better. And Bill didn't really say anything. He probably thought, you're no Van Gogh. Which is fine. I don't want to be Van Gogh. I don't need to be Van Gogh. I just need to make myself happy. So anyway, I added that and writing. Since I've always been a journaler. I have journals dating back to when I was like 8 years old. I journal here and there anymore. I don't do it nearly as often as I once did, but I have been in a journaling phase lately. And I've also, especially since I started doing the posts for my members, that's given me an outlet to write. And I am finding joy in that as well. So I'm enjoying this writing phase that I'm in right now. The majority of what I write will probably never be for consumption by anybody else. In fact, sometimes I think about journals from like my 20s, like my early 20s and stuff, and think, how can I make sure before I die that those get destroyed and nobody ever reads them? I don't want to destroy them too soon because I might want to go back to them someday. But how can I make sure? Maybe I just have to like have somebody designated as my journal destroyer. Please destroy these before my children can ever read about what a hot mess their mother was in their 20s. I don't know. I need a custodian of my written works. Okay. Other than that, I did do one more new recipe since I talked to you last, and that was 15-minute creamy garlic pasta. There was a creamy garlic pasta type recipe on my last list as well. I think that was creamy lemon zucchini pasta, but I think it maybe had garlic in the title too. I don't remember. This one I made last night, and it sounded really good. The thing was, I didn't have a lot of the ingredients, and so what I am renowned for is I just switch up ingredients because I don't care. Like, I think I've mentioned before, I don't keep milk in the house anymore because nobody drinks it. Bill or I, neither of us drink it. I cook with it infrequently enough that I don't feel the need to keep it, even a small container, and I usually substitute sour cream because I do keep sour cream on hand. And I use half the amount of the milk. Like if it calls for a cup of milk, I use half a cup of sour cream and water it down to make the balance. That usually works really well, and that's what worked really well in this recipe last night. I used fresh basil from my pots on the back porch, on the back deck. That was exciting. I love using my fresh herbs. I added shrimp to this recipe. It did not have any type of meat in it. It was just a sauce over pasta, but I wanted to put shrimp in it. And so I did that. And instead of using just regular pasta, I used ravioli. We had some spinach and ricotta ravioli. I purchased 2 bags of it thinking I was going to make it while my mom was here, and then we never ended up needing it. So I threw 1 bag in the freezer and I had the other bag. So I used that. It was really good. I just, again, changed up the recipe an awful lot, but I will link the recipe in the show notes if you want to give it a try, and I'll make a note of what I changed up. And you can change up your own things too, because that's the fun of cooking. You know, baking, I feel like you're very limited as to how much you can really switch and still have it turn out good or at all. But cooking, I think there's so much more latitude, and if you're a creative person, there's absolutely no reason why you can't change things up and just experiment to make it more something that you're going to like, or to make it be able to use things you have on hand. I especially love that with vegetables. Oh, here comes Bill. Okay, it's going to get really loud really fast here, so I'm going to finish up. Life stuff. Chris is doing okay. Thank you again for all of your thoughts, wishes, prayers for him. He's still off work. Hopefully he'll be going back to work next week after he has an appointment with his surgeon. So fingers crossed. My hip and my ankle are both doing really well right now. Knock on wood, hoping that continues. Bill and I are going away next weekend on a motorcycle thing we do every year. It's called Soggy Bottom. I will not be doing an off-road thing this year. I'm doing the, oh my goodness. I need to go help him. Okay, back one more time. Sorry, he was trying to come in the driveway with the RV that has the trailer on his bike on the back of it and got a little too close to the fence post. I did not manifest that chaos, just so you know. Anyway, I'm going to wrap it up. I think I was just saying, you know, Chris is feeling better. My hip and ankle are feeling better. He's still in process. It's going okay though. Bill and I are going to be going away for a long weekend next weekend. We have a motorcycle thing that we do every year. So I will be away on that, taking my new ride, my Canyon. So that's going to be exciting. But yeah, that's about it that's going on. So I'm going to wrap this up before I end up with any other things going on to interrupt me, and hopefully I can get this processed and up. So anyway, I hope things are going well with you guys. If you have any questions about anything I showed you today or need anything regarding any of that, feel free to leave a comment down below. I'd love to know what you're up to, what you're working on, and I will see you sometime in the beginning of August. Take care. Bye.